Hey everyone, Wes here. So I wanted to give you guys a quick tutorial on how to migrate WordPress. It's not a hard thing to do, it's just tedious in that there's a lot of steps. I get a request fairly often on help on how to do this, so I thought that I'd make kind of a bulletproof video that will step you through all of the steps. What I'm going to be using in this video is my new website. So I've been redeveloping my wesboss.com. I'm not totally done, but I'm going to use this as a good example. There's lots of content, lots of images, things like that. I'm going to use that as an example of how do I get it from localhost, which is what I'm working on right now. I'm just running it on test.com, but that's my localhost. And I'm going to move it up to my server so I can have it live on the internet. So for this, I'm using MAMP on my Mac here as my local host. You might be using XAMPP, you may be using WAMP. Those are exactly the same. And on my server, I'm using Bluehost. So don't worry if you're not using MAMP, if you're not using Bluehost. These steps will be similar to pretty much any host, and you'll be able to follow along. So the first thing that you need to do when you want to migrate your WordPress is you need to open it up on your local computer. So here I have just my WordPress right here. You can see all these regular files and my content and my themes. I've got the theme that I've been working on. I want to put everything in this folder. So not just my theme. A lot of people think, oh, I just worked on the theme. I only need to upload theme. But there's all kinds of other stuff in here, like in the uploads folder, there's images that need to go over. In some of your other folders, there's other assets that need to be pushed up. So the entire kind of folder of files needs to be uploaded. And you're going to want to do this as soon as you can. Just because this will take a while, maybe 15-20 minutes to upload. So you want to get it started as soon as you can. So I'm not going to show you how to use FTP. That's another tutorial altogether, but hopefully you have FTP connection. What I've done here is I'm just using Transmit and I've logged into my FTP. Where these should go, they're generally going to be in just the root, which is /. However, I'm going to put mine on in a folder just because it's not ready for prime time yet. So in WesBoss new, these files right here, you may or may not see them. These are kind of the default files that Bluehost gives me. We don't need them, so I'm just going to delete them. I don't like to clutter them up when I put in my WordPress. So delete those. Now I'm going to open up my WordPress. Remember, this is my WordPress folder. I'm going to select everything. Don't select this DS store file if you see it. And I'm just going to drag and drop it up there. So this is going to take you 15-20 minutes to upload. So while that uploads, we're going to move on to the next steps. Now, you're probably familiar with when you install WordPress locally that you have a database. You have a database and you have your files. Right now we're uploading files, but we need to take care of the database section. So we need to go ahead and create a blank database on our host, and then we want to import it into that. So go on and log into your host. If it's Bluehost, you can log in on bluehost.com. Whatever host you're doing, just log on in and look for a button that says cPanel. Once you click on cPanel, you can scroll down and look for something that says MySQL databases. You can see it right here. It's got the dolphin on it. Previously, locally, you may have used phpMyAdmin. We don't need that just yet. We want to use MySQL databases. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And we need to create a blank database. So with Bluehost, they prefix them here. Boss type C _. I'm going to call this WesBoss new. Click create database. Now it's really important that you log down this information now. So I've just created a blank database and I've called it boss type C underscore West boss new. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and you need to keep these in a safe place until you're ready to set up your WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Notice how I'm only selecting the words right here. I'm not selecting any of these quotes, and I'm not selecting the period that's on the end. All too often I see people just go ahead and copy the entire thing, and guess what? It doesn't work. That's because there's a period and a quote there. Those aren't part of your database name. It may seem obvious, but it's something I see fairly often. So copy that. I'm just going to go into my Sublime text right here, and I'm just going to paste these in. So DB name is good. So if we've got a name, however, now we need a username and we need a password. So we're going to click go back. Now we're going to scroll down to where it says MySQL users, and we're going to add a username. So I'm going to call it WestBoss. That'll work. Password. Now, you're not going to want to use your regular email password or whatever it is, because this is going to go into your file where potentially other developers can see it. So you want to use a password that you don't use anywhere else. That should be true for every password. However, it's not always true. So go ahead and click Password Generator, and it's going to suggest to you some crazy password. So just go ahead and let's copy that. And before we do anything else, let's put it into our file here and say db password. That's the password. Click I have copied this in a safe place. Click use password. Go ahead and click create user. And they're going to say added user. Oh, we also need that. So boss type C underscore West boss. So I'm going to put that in here. DB user is that. Oops. Okay, so we've got the name of the database, we've got the username, and we've got the password. Again, I can't stress this enough. Do not copy the quotes. Do not copy the period here. So I've got that. Click go back. Now you might think, all right, I'm in good shape. I've got my name, I've got my username, I've got the password. Let's go ahead and install WordPress. Well, one last step. We need to add the username to the actual database. So that's the third step that we have right here. It says add user to database. So I'm going to say the username, which we just created, was underscore westboss. The database name was underscore westboss new. I'm going to go ahead and click add. Now it says manage user privileges. The user of boss type C westboss and the database of westboss new is going to say which permissions would you actually need. And when you have more complex applications, you may want to allow people just to do certain things. However, in this case, WordPress will take care of all of that. So we're going to go ahead and just click all privileges and then make changes. Good. User boss type C underscore westboss. Added to the database westboss new. Good. So we're going to go ahead and click go back. Now we're all done in this screen right here. The next step that we need is we need to take our database locally and move it on up to that new blank one that we just created. So let's go ahead and click cPanel. And we're gonna scroll on down to where it says Database Tools. Right here it says PHP MyAdmin. So this one with the boat, you want to click on that one. And this is going to take a second. It's going to redirect us to our PHP MyAdmin. You've probably used this before locally, but if you're not familiar, it's a way to manage your database, import and edit and all that. So username and password. You may think right now, oh, my Bluehost username and password. That's not the username and password we're looking for. We're looking for this one, the username, which we just created, and the password, which we just created. So I'm going to paste those in there, click go. Wait for that to log in. Now we're logged into our PHPMyAdmin, on the sidebar here, you're going to see that we have WSBoss new and information schema. This is obviously the one we want. We just created it. So go ahead and click on your database in the sidebar. And you can see it says here, no tables found in the database. Basically, it says there's no data in this database. There's no information. There's no posts. There's no pages. No content at all. So we need to go on our local host and grab the database that we're using to develop locally. So this is going to be different for pretty much everyone. I think on WAMP and XAMPP it's localhost/phpMyAdmin. But with MAMP, you can go to your thing right here, and there'll be like a web start or home button that you can click. So go ahead and click that. Make sure your server is running as well. If it's not going to work. You're going to see, you might see something like this. You need to click on the tab that says phpMyAdmin. Now in the sidebar here, you're going to see any number of databases depending on how many WordPresses you have had installed locally. I'm going to find the one that I want to export. I've called mine WSBoss 2014, so I click on that. And all we really need to do here is click the Export tab. When we click on that, it says export method quick or custom. If you click on quick and click go, what's going to happen is it's actually just going to dump all of your data in right here, which is not really what we want. We actually want a database file. So I'm going to click back. We want to click custom. And there's only one thing that we need to set here, and it says save output as file. So make sure you click on that. And ignore all the rest. Click go. And you can see that my database has downloaded to Chrome here. So we're done on the local host. I'm going to close that tab and move back to the phpMyAdmin for my bluehost on my server. I'm going to click the import tab, and it lets you import it by just browsing your computer. So browse your computer, choose file. I just downloaded it right here, and click open. When you're ready to go, click go. And it's going to take a sec. Depending on how big your database, this may take 10 seconds. It may take a minute, depending on how big it is to upload. And it looks like mine is done here. Import has successfully finished, 111 queries executed. Sometimes, in Bluehost specifically, I see this error that it's red and it says something about there may have been an error or something like that. If it says there may have been, in my experience, there's not any error and you can just ignore it safely. So as you can see, if I go to my WP post table, there's all my blog posts are in here. Learn Sublime Text Line Bubbling. This is all the data now, and I've moved it on up. So if you have that, you can go ahead and close your phpMyAdmin. We're done with all the database stuff on our host. I'm just going to go back to my transmit here and see how well we're doing. Looks like things are moving pretty slowly, so I'm going to pause the video and come back when we're done uploading. Okay, so I have everything successfully uploaded. Just for a quick review, I've taken all of my files in my WordPress directory and I've uploaded them to a folder where I'd like it installed. Now, if I go ahead and visit wsbossnew.bosstype.com or whatever the domain is that you set it up to be, you're going to notice that it'll say error establishing database connection. Now, that's because WordPress still thinks that we're editing locally. However, we've now updated our remote credentials. So what we need to do is update the wp-config file and allow it to point towards our new database name, database user, as well as the password. So where do we do that? That's done in the wp config file right in the root or the main directory of your WordPress. If I go ahead and open that up, you're going to see it says WesBoss 2014 root and root. Now those are my localhost configuration options. However, now that we've moved it to Bluehost and we've actually imported our database, we need to update those three things with these guys right here. Now, kind of a little trick to get around this. If you update the wp config file locally, then you're not going to be able to work on it locally because it's going to be pointing to your remote server. So you want to kind of leave this intact. A great way to do that is to basically just take your wp config file, duplicate it. So it's going to be called wp config-copy. And rename that to something like wp-config-prod. The name of this is not significant because we're going to be renaming it back to wp-config in just a second. However, it's just so that it doesn't overwrite our local wp-config. So open up this wp-config-prod in your editor. And we're going to go ahead and update the database name, the username, and the password. So, database name, let's go back to what we just typed in here. It's this one. Next up, database username, it's this one. And finally, the password, it's this guy right here. Save that, paste it in there, give it a save. Now, we've been doing this locally, and we need to get that up to our server. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy, drag it into our FTP, upload that, and you can see it's shown. It's going to refresh this. wp config-prod is showing up right here. So we've got this wp config and we've got this wp config sample. We actually don't need them, so we can go ahead and delete them. Now we want to take this wp config prod, and now we're going to rename it back to wp-config.php because this is the one that has this updated info that we just put in there. So I've updated that. I've renamed that on my server, not locally. That's important. Rename that on my server here. Now if I go back to my domain name and refresh, what you should see is either it will take a long time and just fail, or you'll see something like this where it actually is starting to pull in your website. Now if I go ahead and click on something, it's probably not going to work. You'll see right here it actually just redirected me back to test.com. If I were to even stop my MAMP and refresh, you'll see that. You'll probably see something like this. It's just broken. Nothing's working. And the reason is because if we view source and look at some of these style sheets, let's look for style.css right here. Look where it's trying to access it from. test.com/wesboss.com/2014 dev. That's my local path. That's not my wesboss new.bosstype.com. So we need to update the database. Every instance that says test.com/wesboss.com/2014 dev needs to be, or whatever your local domain was, needs to be updated with the new remote domain. And the best way to do that is to use a tool called search replace DB. So I'm going to search WordPress, search and replace. I'll put a link for this in the notes. And I'm going to go ahead and download. I'm going to do the stable one right now. Unzip that. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a file called search replace db2.php, and we need to upload that to the root of our folder. So take this guy, search replace db2, upload it to our server. Now we've got this file called search replace db2.php. If I then visit it on my remote server /search replace db2.php, hit enter, we're going to see it. And this is a tool where it's going to take all instances of our local, let's say maybe it's localhost /WordPress for you, or maybe it's something like localhost 8888, or for me it was test.com /westboss.com /2014 dev, whatever your local URL was where you were developing it. We want to take that and we want to replace with our new domain name, which in my case is westbossnew.bosstype.com. So westbossnew.bosstype.com. Yours might be something like yourdomain.com or helloworld.com. Whatever it is, you want to basically write these two things out. You want to write down what was the domain name locally. So in my case, it was test.com / these directories. And where is it going to go? Now, this is probably the most important part, so you need to pay super close attention here. Notice how I did not use HTTP // Notice how I did not use www or anything. You need to just use the domain name and where it's going to go. Do not put anything in front of it. Do not put any /s on the end of it. If you leave a / on, it's not going to replace all of the instances for you. If you leave the / on one of them, you will be in trouble because your URLs will start to look like, let's say I left the / on here, but I didn't put it on here. Then my URLs are going to look like westbossnew.bosstype.com images or wp content / content or whatever the URLs are going to be. So because I put the / on there and not here, my find and replace is going to be all goofed up. So super important, do not put / or HTTP or www in front or behind on anything. We want kind of just the root here without anything on it. So head back to your search replace DB. It's going to go ahead and grab the WordPress credentials for you. So hit submit. You can see that it's grabbed my username, my password, and the database name right from my WP config file. So I can click submit. Now it's saying which tables do you want to scan. Most likely you want to scan all of them unless you know you have a reason not to. Gonna click continue. It's gonna be a little bit scary. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? You should be sure as long as you have a backup of this because you just downloaded it. So go ahead and click OK. Now it's going to ask search for, which is going to be that first one that we just decided, and replace with westbossnew.bosstype.com. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit. OK. Completed. It did a total of 6,716 rows, and it updated that URL 2,000 times in my website. So now if I go back to my website, actually, sorry, first thing you need to do right now, and this is really important for your security, you need to delete this. Because if someone were to stumble upon this script, and believe me, people are looking for it, they're going to be able to find your database username and password. So we need to go back to our FTP and delete that file right away. Don't leave it till later, because if you forget it, you'll have a huge security hole. So now if I refresh this, it's gone. It no longer exists. So I'm going to head back to my website here. My homepage seems to be loading just fine. If I click on one of my blog posts, I get this error, internal server error. Now this is because I'm using something called permalinks on my website, and none of the links on my page are working. So easy fix for that, we go to wp/admin and log yourself in. I'm just going to go ahead and log into my website. And all you really need to do here is to go to Settings, Permalinks, and you just have to click Save Changes again. Don't worry about changing any of these. Whatever you had set before is already going to be set. You just need to click Save Changes again, and then what that's going to do is it's going to update your permalink structure, and all of your links should start to work. So there we go. It's worth kind of running through your website to make sure everything is in good shape. But after that, all those steps should be able to get you up and running. So let me know if you have any questions or ways to improve this tutorial. Thanks a lot.